So Norma, Eliza, Martin, I've gathered you together for one of our occasional summit meetings. I kind of last talked with you a couple of years ago about that idea of what, you know, the new genres that were splitting off from folk, the new folks and the freak folks, and we discussed what impact that had on where you were and what you were doing. If it was a kind of moment where you just felt a series of gimmicks and fads were throwing a light on folk, but it would all go away and you'd be carrying on as normal. So I just wondered if what kind of impact it has had, the fact that we talk about folk in a slightly different way now, but whether we're still talking about the folk that you believe in or a thing that made it trendy for a moment.
I think the new acoustic sort of new folk scene is really thriving. I think it's doing very well. There are festivals specifically for that kind of thing springing up all over the place. Radio 1 DJs like Rob DeBank and people like that are actually starting festivals up. If you listen to Radio 1 now, after all the techno stops, there's Rob DeBank has his little campfire show and all that kind of stuff, and that's fine. I think that's really good. It is still pretty much just acoustic singer-songwriting as far as I see it. I mean, it's certainly on the artier end of the spectrum. It's people who make their own clothes and probably make their own merch as well. That kind of thing. I think it's tokenistic. I think things go in cycles, and I think this one's possibly at its peak. I don't know. I don't want to do it down.
No, sure.
Because I like seeing different music in the media, and we do actually have that at the moment.
Yes, because I was thinking about it, you must have seen it come and go many times since.
Not as many times as you'd think, because there was that huge gap in the 70s. People were really indulging. I can remember doing a particular club summer. I don't remember where it was, but I had a bit of credibility outside the folk scene, so there were people coming to see me, and this club sat in a circle facing inwards.
Yes.
And I always remember I was sitting there waiting to do my half an hour, and the door opened, and these two young kids came in with this amazing hair, sort of blue flashes in the hair, and they came in and they were singing "Pack Up Your Troubles in Your Old Kit Bag," which is a White Feather song. They looked at each other and they went, very quietly, and they crept out of the door and they shut the door really quietly, and you heard this. And I remember thinking, there goes, there's another missed opportunity. And so you had for 10, 15 years.
Yes. Why do you think there is this thing that I think is dissolving to an extent, but that cultural approach to the word folk, that it was a kind of depressing word, a dirty word, if you like, from the mainstream, that somehow it was about history, it was about politics.
If people said folk, they would sit there and go, and which is a really silly thing to do, because it's just a tool, and it's not just the folk scene that uses it. Opera singers use it. Pavarotti used it, and various. I mean, there's a vase in the British Museum that's from Persia or something, with somebody singing that's got. It is a tool. It helps you hear yourself better. That's all.
Yes.
And but you only had to mention the word folk, and everybody would go. Ooh.
Yeah.
That was the time of the punk as well, and punk scene really was the scene that I think. Well,
there should have been the values.
It should have been the values.
It wasn't a way, because it was very English.
Exactly. But I mean, the folk scene should have agreed with them.
We did.
A lot. Yeah, you did.
But and a lot of the clubs wouldn't. You'd ask Billy Bragg, and people like Elvis Costello, who wanted work at that time.
Yeah.
The folk scene wouldn't touch them, which is a real shame.
They could not get gigs in the folk scene.
Something about folk that for me celebrates that side of the English and the British that's so important and gets constantly threatened by the commercial world. And it's not just the working class side. It's not just continuity. It's not just telling us stories about our past that everyone almost seems embarrassed about. But there's also the magical side and the mysterious side. I think is really important.
The other thing too is you mentioned it is working class music. It is. And don't you think around about the 80s and the 70s and the 80s, people in the working class they became very confused about what their position in society was.
Yes, yes. And also, I guess, a deepening confusion about what it is to be English as well, I guess.
Yes, we started to sing the song Coal Not Dole. And when we introduce it, I always say it's the 25th anniversary of the miners' strike, and the gasps in the audience, but people go, because they don't realise that it's 25 years since it. And communities, especially in the northeast, communities have totally gone.
Can I ask you, during those dark ages of folk that we've been talking about, you know, when you were continuing, you know, you were doing it, you know, A, did you feel that the tradition was genuinely being threatened, and B, what kept motivating you to stick with it even in its darkest period?
What kept me going was the fact that that was the first person I ever saw doing it, who was this man called Sam Larner, who's 80 years old. Well, two people actually. One of them was Sam Larner, the other one was Walter Pardon, because I saw Sam Larner when I was 17, and I was completely blown away by his passion. And when I met Walter Pardon, how old was I? I was in my mid-30s, I suppose, wasn't I? And I remember watching him sing a song, sitting across a table, and he asked me about a song I knew, and he said, "How do you sing it?" And I sang it to him. He said, "This is the way I sing it." And he leaned across the table and he started to sing, and as he started to sing the song, every single hair on his arm stood straight up in the air. And I remember thinking, bloody hell, I hope I feel like that when I'm in my mid-60s, and I do. I'm in my late 60s now. I feel exactly the same way. And what kept me going was the fact that there was always something new to find out. You know, this is an endless seam. Absolutely endless seam. You always find another way. There's always somebody else doing something in a totally upside down way. And it's something they've thought of out of thin air.
Now, what's interesting now is a lot of things that we thought were certain are also being threatened in the pop world. You know, and folk in a way has been through all these battles before, and I'm wondering whether it's kind of more suited in a way to survive this period of threat, if you know, oddly enough, you know, because it's used to it and it's been through it before and it's been turned, and here it is.
Like Kevin Costner, we've grown our gills. We've
got our webbed toes.
Yeah, we've got our webbed toes.
Well, a better example than Kevin Costner, but you know. But that's the thing. I was just thinking, if you've, you know, like with Topic surviving 70 years, you feel that Topic's more likely to survive another 70 years than some of the ones that, you know, the more of the commercial ones, you know.
Topic has to, when they record anybody, Tony just has to sit down and say, right, am I going to make the money back from this? What am I going to do? If it's a traditional singer, like the Voice of the People that they did, or they're doing another one at the moment of more traditional singers and musicians and storytellers and things. Now he won't make a mint out of that, but a Martin Simpson record or a June Tabor record, or dare I say it, you know, a record from us, he'll break even. He will make something out of it. He'll make something for it. And that has to go to the traditional stuff.
You're talking about value in a way, and talking about that idea that you're continually kind of being critical of your own repertoire in a way to give it longevity. But I am interested ultimately what you think the value is.
Well, for me, a song is like, a traditional song is like an old piece of furniture, you know. It's been polished, it's been loved, it's been changed, maybe it's been, you know, over the years. And it's there and it's beautiful and it's passed through so many people's hands. It's like we said before, it's a miracle that music has survived. And I respect the fact that it has survived.
It's not just respect for me either, it's enjoyment. I mean, I don't have any sentimentality about the stuff that I don't enjoy. I wouldn't perform it. I wouldn't perform it just because it was there. I would, I enjoy the genuine poignancy and power of the music that's available, and it is unusual, and it's worth doing for that. And also, I'm a little bit less concerned about this now than I was, but in the search for an English identity, I think our old music, the music that we have loved over the years, that our grandparents have loved and their grandparents have loved, actually can't help in the search for a positive English identity. I think that's very important.
it's still full of surprises. You're still going to come across somebody somewhere who has an angle on a particular song, or has a totally different idea, if you like, what constitutes a melody. You know, there's some gypsy singers who do that to me. I just sit and I listen to them and I think, where the hell did that come from? And I sit there, and I mean, the very exciting thing for me is to be able to try and play what they sing. To actually try and play it and understand the rhythms and it sounds like an intellectual exercise, and it's not. It's trying to use your intuition, trying to use your feel for the thing, trying to get deeper into the feel of the thing. It's intuition. It's how people respond to intuition. It's what people do when they're inspired, how people express themselves, and how many thousand ways there are for them to do it, how they find another way of doing it, and how it's a real thrill. That's what ordinary people do. That's how they express themselves. You can't beat it.
Yeah. No, absolutely.